The camera sweeps across a barren, sun-scorched plain. Dust hangs heavy in the air as the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro stretch out like the bones of a long-dead giant. Crumbling brick streets, half-buried staircases, and silent wells stare back at us as if frozen in time. This was once the beating heart of the Indus Valley civilization, a city of tens of thousands, alive with merchants, artisans, and priests. And yet, today, all that remains are their stones, and their silence. But among the relics of this lost world, one mystery stands out above all others: hundreds of tiny seals, carved with painstaking precision, each one covered in strange animal motifs and a script no one on earth can read. These seals have baffled scholars for over a century. They are small enough to fit in the palm of your hand, yet they carry within them a secret so profound that cracking their code could rewrite everything we know about one of humanity's first great civilizations. Imagine discovering an entire library but finding every book locked shut, its language unknown. That is the challenge posed by these seals. Were they used to mark trade goods? Did they carry religious or magical power? Or were they a form of writing that recorded the laws, myths, and beliefs of an entire people? In this video, we will journey deep into the ruins of the Indus Valley and explore the enigma of its undeciphered seals. We will look at the moment they were first discovered, the clues they hold, the competing theories that have tried, and failed, to decode them, and the cutting-edge technology that may finally reveal their secrets. Yet, the deeper we go, the stranger the story becomes. For every answer we find, new questions emerge. The seals seem to whisper from the past, about gods, about trade, about a world that flourished thousands of years before the pyramids, but they never speak clearly enough to be understood. Stay with me as we unravel this greatest of ancient puzzles. By the end, you may discover that the mystery of the Indus seals is not just about a forgotten civilization, but about whether humanity is truly ready to know what they have been trying to tell us for 4,000 years. Close your eyes and imagine traveling back 5,000 years. The dusty ruins of Mohenjo-Daro spring to life. Streets once silent now echo with footsteps, merchants call out their wares, ox-drawn carts rumble over brick roads, and children run through narrow alleyways between neatly laid homes. This is the Indus Valley civilization at its peak, a thriving network of cities stretching across what is now Pakistan and northwest India. At first glance, it might seem unremarkable, just another ancient culture swallowed by time, but dig deeper and you find something astonishing. The Indus people were master planners. Their cities were laid out in a perfect grid, something that wouldn't be seen again until modern times. Sophisticated drainage systems ran beneath the streets, carrying away waste. Each house had a bathroom connected to this network, a luxury even some medieval European cities never achieved. Their society thrived on trade. Seals and weights suggest a bustling economy, exchanging goods with Mesopotamia over hundreds of miles. Imagine ships laden with cotton, ivory, and carnelian beads sailing down the Indus River, then across the Arabian Sea. Archaeologists have even found Indus-style seals in the ruins of Mesopotamian cities, evidence of a world more connected than we ever imagined. But perhaps most fascinating is what we do not find: monuments to kings or conquerors. No colossal statues of rulers, no glorifying inscriptions declaring war victories. Unlike Egypt, which gave us pharaohs, or Mesopotamia, which gave us empires, the Indus Valley seems strangely leaderless. The power here was not in the hands of a single king, but perhaps in the hands of merchants, priests, or councils we can only guess at. This absence of obvious hierarchy only deepens the mystery of their seals. If there were no kings, what were these carved symbols used for? Were they marks of authority? Family crests? Religious emblems? The more we learn about the Indus, the more we realize how different they were from their contemporaries, and how much they still have to teach us. Modern historians paint them as one of the great cradles of civilization, standing shoulder to shoulder with Mesopotamia and Egypt, yet unlike those civilizations, the Indus Valley left behind no decipherable texts, no Rosetta Stone to explain their world. All we have are clues, bricks, tools, figurines, and those hauntingly silent seals. And then, around 1900 BCE, the thriving cities began to fade. Wells dried up. Streets were abandoned. The once bustling trade routes fell silent. Whether it was climate change, shifting rivers, or something far more dramatic, the Indus civilization collapsed, leaving behind ruins, relics, and the greatest unsolved script in history. As we stand among the ruins today, we are left with a strange feeling. This was not a primitive culture, but a sophisticated society whose voice has been stolen by time. The seals they left behind are the only whispers of what they believed, what they feared, and perhaps why they disappeared. And that is where our mystery truly begins. In the next section, we will journey back to the moment these seals were first discovered, and witness the shockwaves they sent through the world of archaeology. Our story shifts to the late 1800s, when the British Empire ruled the Indian subcontinent. Railway lines were being laid across the plains, and workers began pulling bricks from ancient mounds to build the tracks. They had no idea that these mounds were the remains of one of the world's oldest civilizations. In 1920, archaeologists John Marshall and Daya Ram Sawhney began systematic excavations at Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. What they uncovered stunned the world, entire cities buried beneath centuries of dust. As they brushed away the earth, they found houses, streets, granaries, and then something far stranger. Tiny, square-shaped objects began to appear. Some were carved from steatite, a soft stone perfect for fine detail. Each had an image, a humped bull, a mysterious unicorn-like animal, an elephant, a tiger. Above these creatures were strange markings, a series of symbols no one had ever seen before. At first, they seemed almost decorative, like jewelry or amulets, but the sheer number of seals, and their consistent designs, suggested something more. Hundreds were found, then thousands. Some were so perfectly made that scholars marveled at the craftsmanship. The figures were carved in miniature yet with breathtaking precision. John Marshall himself was captivated. Here was evidence of a civilization that rivaled Egypt and Mesopotamia, but unlike those cultures, it left behind no readable records. The seals, with their short inscriptions, were the only window into this mysterious world. As news spread, the seals captured the imagination of scholars and the public alike. Newspapers declared the discovery of a lost civilization. Academics rushed to compare the symbols to other scripts, Sumerian cuneiform, Egyptian hieroglyphs, but the Indus signs refused to give up their meaning. The more seals that were found, the more questions emerged. Some had holes, suggesting they were worn as pendants. Others were mounted with handles, as if meant to stamp clay or mark goods. They were functional objects, but perhaps also ceremonial. And everywhere, the same short, tantalizing inscriptions, too brief to decode, too consistent to ignore. In many ways, this was the moment the great mystery of the Indus Valley was born. These artifacts transformed the region from an archaeological curiosity into one of the greatest unsolved riddles of human history. In the next section, we'll look closer at these enigmatic objects, at their shapes, their creatures, their symbols, and see how every detail holds a clue to what the Indus people might have been trying to tell us. Now that we know where the seals were found, let's examine them up close, as if we are holding one in the palm of our hand. Most are small, rarely more than an inch or two across, yet their detail is exquisite. Crafted from steatite, a soft stone, they were carved with a precision that still impresses modern artisans. After carving, they were fired to make them hard and durable, ensuring they could survive thousands of years buried in the earth, and survive they did. The first thing that captures the eye is the animal motif. Nearly every seal depicts a creature, and these are no ordinary animals. The most famous is the so-called unicorn, a mysterious, one-horned beast that appears on more than half of all known seals. It stands before a strange object, often interpreted as a ritual stand or offering table. Some scholars argue the unicorn is mythical, a creature of religious significance. Others believe it represents a stylized bull or goat, its single horn a symbol rather than a literal feature. Beyond the unicorn, we find humped bulls with powerful shoulders, tigers mid-stride, elephants, rhinoceroses, and even composite creatures that seem to blend different animals together, almost like mythic guardians. These figures are carved in profile, with fine attention to musculature and anatomy, as though the artists were deeply familiar with the animals they portrayed. Above the animals, usually in a single row, are the inscriptions, those haunting, undeciphered symbols. Most inscriptions are brief, rarely more than 5 to 6 characters long. Some seals contain only 1 or 2 symbols, while a few have slightly longer strings, but none are long enough to give us an obvious sentence or clue. Every symbol seems carefully chosen. There are signs that look like fish, others like combs, grids, spears, and human-like figures. Their uniformity suggests they formed a coherent system, whether a full language or a code, we still do not know. Then there's the reverse side. Many seals have a projecting boss or handle with a hole through it, suggesting they were meant to be strung or worn, perhaps as a badge of office, a merchant's identifier, or a talisman of protection. Some scholars argue they were used as stamps, pressed into wet clay to seal goods or documents. This would have made them functional tools in a vast trade network. Yet, there is a ritualistic beauty to them that hints they may have held deeper meaning. The repeated animal motifs could represent totems of clans or guilds, or even religious symbols invoking divine protection. The ritual stands depicted in front of many creatures hint at offerings, ceremonies, and a belief system we cannot yet reconstruct. Every detail, from the choice of animal to the arrangement of symbols, feels deliberate, almost coded. The seals seem to speak, but in a language just beyond our reach. In the next section, we will confront the most perplexing part of this mystery, the script itself. We will see why, after more than 100 years of study, no scholar, no codebreaker, not even artificial intelligence has been able to say with certainty what these seals are telling us. Now we come to the heart of the enigma, the script itself. For over a century, this series of strange symbols has resisted every attempt at decipherment. In a world where we have translated Egyptian hieroglyphs, cracked cuneiform, and even reconstructed long-dead languages, the Indus script remains maddeningly silent. When the seals were first discovered, early archaeologists hoped that decipherment would be quick. After all, scholars had already unlocked other ancient scripts using techniques like the Rosetta Stone for Egypt and bilingual inscriptions for Mesopotamia. But the Indus Valley left us no such key. There is no long bilingual text, no helpful translation carved in a neighboring language. All we have are these short inscriptions, rarely more than 5 symbols long, too brief to offer the repeating patterns that linguists rely on. Over the decades, some of the brightest minds in archaeology, linguistics, and cryptography have tried to solve the riddle. In the mid-20th century, scholars like Iravatham Mahadevan catalogued thousands of seal inscriptions, hoping that a large enough database would reveal clues. They noted that certain symbols occur more frequently at the beginning or end of inscriptions, suggesting they might represent names, titles, or common words. Then came theories about what language the script might represent. Some argue it encodes a form of Proto-Dravidian, linking it to the ancestors of modern South Indian languages. Others believe it may represent a lost branch of early Indo-Aryan speech. Still others suggest it might not be a language at all, but a set of religious or administrative symbols more like heraldry than writing. The debate is fierce. In 2004, a controversial paper argued that the Indus symbols do not represent a true writing system, since they lack long texts and appear too short to capture full language. The backlash was immediate. Many scholars countered that just because the inscriptions are brief does not mean they aren't linguistic. After all, we use short symbols all the time for words, numbers, and names. Modern technology has added a new dimension to the search. Artificial intelligence and machine learning have been used to analyze seal patterns, detect symbol frequencies, and even generate potential translations. Some AI studies suggest the script does indeed have language-like structure, with syntax and order similar to written words. But even with supercomputers, we have no definitive dictionary, no way to test if our guesses are right. The mystery only deepens when we consider that the civilization vanished without leaving longer records on stone, metal, or papyrus. If they wrote longer texts on perishable materials, palm leaves, birch bark, cloth, they have been lost to time. What remains are these fragments, like messages in a bottle from a sunken world. And yet, there is something almost poetic about this silence. The Indus script teases us with meaning but never fully reveals itself. Every new discovery, a new seal, a new inscription, feels like a clue dropped by history itself. But as soon as we think we are close, the trail goes cold. Some researchers believe we are on the edge of a breakthrough. Others warn that without a bilingual text, we may never crack the code. The Indus script may be destined to remain one of the last great unreadable languages of the ancient world. In the next section, we will explore the most fascinating and controversial theories about what these symbols actually mean, and the academic battles that have raged over them for decades. When you stare long enough into the mystery of the Indus seals, one thing becomes clear: no one agrees on what they mean. Over the last century, the academic world has been split into camps, each championing a different theory, each claiming they hold the key to the puzzle. What follows is not just a story of symbols, but of intellectual rivalries, bold claims, and sometimes fierce academic feuds. The most widely accepted theory is that the script represents a form of Proto-Dravidian, the ancestor of languages like Tamil and Telugu. This idea is supported by scholars who see continuity between Indus culture and later Dravidian traditions. They argue that words for trade goods, animals, and even gods in South Indian languages may preserve echoes of the Indus tongue. To them, the seals were used as identifiers for merchants, property, and perhaps ritual purposes. But others fiercely disagree. Some argue that the Indus script represents an early Indo-Aryan language, linking it to the Sanskritic traditions that later dominated the Indian subcontinent. This debate is not merely academic, it touches on questions of cultural identity, migration, and who the first inhabitants of the region were. Entire conferences have turned into heated battlegrounds over this question. Then there are those who challenge the premise entirely. In 2004, a team of scholars caused an uproar by suggesting the Indus symbols aren't a writing system at all, but rather a collection of non-linguistic symbols, a kind of prehistoric logo system used for trade or clan identification. They pointed out that the inscriptions are extremely short, too short to represent complex speech. Their critics counter that brevity doesn't prove anything. After all, even modern scripts like Chinese can use single characters to represent full words or ideas. Outside mainstream academia, more speculative theories flourish. Some propose that the seals encode spiritual mantras, cosmological maps, or even advanced mathematical knowledge lost to time. Others have gone further, suggesting that the unicorn and other strange creatures represent beings from myth, or even extraterrestrial visitors. While such theories may raise eyebrows in scholarly circles, they also fuel the public imagination, keeping the mystery alive in books, documentaries, and late-night debates. The feuds can be surprisingly personal. Scholars spend decades of their careers trying to decode the script, and when rival theories challenge their work, tempers flare. Letters to journals turn into rebuttals, rebuttals into counter-arguments, and conferences sometimes resemble intellectual duels more than polite discussions. What makes this battle so fascinating is that everyone, whether academic or enthusiast, is staring at the same small set of symbols, yet arriving at vastly different conclusions. Each theory opens a window into a different possible past. Were the Indus people early Dravidians recording transactions? Proto-Aryans documenting rituals? Or were they a culture so unique that our modern categories of language and writing fail to describe what they were doing at all? In the next section, we will set aside the academic arguments for a moment and look at the seals through a different lens, the religious and mythological. Could these tiny carvings represent gods, cosmic order, or glimpses of a spiritual system that predated recorded Hindu tradition? When you look at the Indus seals, it is hard not to feel that they were more than mere trade tags. Many scholars and enthusiasts alike have suggested that these tiny objects may hold the key to the spiritual world of the Indus people, their gods, their rituals, even their cosmology. One of the most iconic pieces is the Pashupati seal, depicting a horned figure seated in what appears to be a yogic posture, surrounded by animals, elephants, tigers, rhinoceroses. This figure has captured the imagination of researchers for decades. Some interpret it as an early form of the Hindu god Shiva, lord of beasts, sitting in meditation as master of the natural world. If true, it would push the roots of Hinduism back thousands of years further than previously believed. Others see the seals as ritualistic, their animal symbols representing clan totems, guardian spirits, or divine emblems. The unicorn seal, for instance, might have been a symbol of purity, power, or even a mythic creature invoked in ceremonies. The mysterious object placed before the animals, often interpreted as a ritual stand, could represent offerings, fire altars, or even sacrificial tables. Consider also the repeated motifs: bulls, elephants, tigers, creatures associated with strength, fertility, and cosmic order in many ancient traditions. These were not random decorations. Each animal might have carried symbolic weight, acting as a kind of visual prayer, invoking protection or prosperity. Some researchers go even further, suggesting the seals may have been used in actual religious rites. Imagine a priest pressing a seal into wet clay as part of a blessing, or merchants carrying a seal as a talisman to ensure safe passage for their goods. The holes in some seals hint that they might have been worn around the neck, almost like amulets or badges of faith. There are even astronomical interpretations. Some scholars propose that the seals encode celestial patterns, constellations, lunar cycles, or solar movements, turning them into miniature cosmic diagrams. If this is true, the Indus seals could represent one of humanity's earliest attempts to record the heavens. Of course, these ideas remain speculative, but they add depth to the mystery. The seals seem to straddle two worlds, practical and sacred, suggesting a civilization where religion, commerce, and daily life were deeply intertwined. In the next section, we'll move from myth to science, exploring how modern technology is being used to analyze these seals and whether we are finally on the verge of unlocking their message. For over a century, the seals of the Indus Valley mocked us with their silence, but today, science is fighting back. Modern technology has breathed new life into the quest to decode these tiny artifacts, turning what was once guesswork into a high-tech investigation worthy of a detective thriller. First came high-resolution photography and 3D scanning. Archaeologists can now capture every microscopic detail of a seal's carving, including tool marks invisible to the naked eye. These scans reveal not just the final images but the very order in which the artisans carved them, offering clues to the methods and perhaps even the minds of their makers. Then came the age of big data. Scholars have compiled massive digital corpora of every known seal, cataloging their symbols, positions, and contexts. This allows researchers to run statistical analyses, looking for hidden patterns in how symbols appear. Some signs almost always occur first, others appear last, suggesting a grammatical structure, like prefixes or suffixes, hinting that we may indeed be dealing with a true language. Artificial intelligence has pushed the investigation even further. Machine learning algorithms have been trained to recognize symbol sequences, predict missing signs on broken seals, and even generate possible translations based on linguistic models. In some studies, AI has confirmed that the arrangement of symbols follows language-like rules, with repetition and syntax similar to spoken communication. But despite these advances, the breakthrough everyone hopes for remains just out of reach. We still have no Rosetta Stone, no bilingual inscription to anchor our interpretations. AI can tell us that the seals behave like language, but it cannot yet tell us what they actually say. Recent chemical analysis of seals has also revealed surprising insights. Residues of clay and pigment hint that the seals were not merely decorative but actively used, pressed into goods or documents. This functional evidence strengthens the theory that they carried meaning, names, ownership marks, or sacred dedications, not just random images. What makes the technological hunt so thrilling is that we are closer than ever to answers. Each new discovery feels like a piece of a puzzle sliding into place. And yet, the picture is still incomplete, as if the past is teasing us, revealing just enough to keep us searching. In the next section, we'll step back and ask a deeper question: why does this mystery matter so much? What does decoding these tiny seals mean for our understanding of human history, and why does the silence of the Indus still haunt us? Why should we care about a few thousand-year-old seals, carved by hands that turned to dust millennia ago? The answer lies in what they represent, a missing chapter in the story of humanity. The Indus Valley civilization was one of the world's great cradles of urban life. Alongside Mesopotamia and Egypt, it saw the birth of organized cities, trade, and culture. Yet, unlike those civilizations, we have no written chronicles, no royal decrees, no hymns or myths to tell us who these people were. The seals are our only voice from that forgotten world, and until we can read them, we are deaf to what they have to say. Decoding the seals could transform history books. Imagine suddenly being able to know what the Indus people called themselves, what gods they worshipped, what laws they followed, and why their cities were abandoned. It could reveal whether they were a peaceful, trade-oriented society, as many believe, or whether they had hidden conflicts, political intrigue, and stories of triumph and tragedy just like every other civilization. This is why historians, linguists, and even computer scientists are obsessed with the problem. Solving the Indus script wouldn't just give us answers, it would rewrite the narrative of early human civilization. It might even change what we think we know about the origins of language itself. There's also a deeper, almost philosophical dimension. These seals remind us that knowledge can vanish, that entire worlds can be forgotten. In an age where we record everything, it is humbling to realize that a whole civilization's thoughts could slip beyond our reach. The Indus mystery is not just about the past, it is about the fragility of memory, about how easily the voices of history can fall silent. Cracking the code would not just resurrect their words, it would reconnect us to a piece of ourselves we never knew was missing. And so, the silence of the Indus still calls to us. In the final section, we will stand among the ruins once more, and leave you with the haunting thought that some secrets might never be meant to be unlocked. The sun is setting over the Indus plains. The ruins of Mohenjo-Daro glow orange in the fading light, and a warm wind stirs the dust, whispering across the streets that once bustled with life. You can almost imagine the footsteps of merchants, the laughter of children, the ringing of tools, but all of it is gone. What remains are bricks, bones, and those enigmatic seals, staring back at us from across 4,000 years. The Indus seals are more than just archaeological curiosities. They are the last surviving words of an entire civilization, frozen in stone. Each symbol is like a locked door, and behind each door might lie a story, of kings and priests, of lovers and warriors, of trade deals and prayers whispered to unknown gods. To hold a seal in your hand is to hold a piece of their mind, their identity, their hope of being remembered. And yet, they remain silent. No scholar, no linguist, no AI supercomputer has been able to make them speak. The Indus script refuses to surrender its meaning, and perhaps that is part of its power. It reminds us that there are still limits to human knowledge, that no matter how advanced we become, some mysteries remain out of reach. But maybe that is what keeps us searching. The silence of the seals calls to us, dares us to try again, to dig deeper, to look harder. Every time a new seal is unearthed, every time a new theory is proposed, we are drawn back into the mystery. It is as if the Indus civilization is still there, just behind a veil, waiting for someone to finally hear its voice. Some believe the breakthrough will come in our lifetime. Perhaps a bilingual inscription still lies buried under the desert sands, waiting to be found. Perhaps new AI models will one day crack the code with enough data. When that day comes, the Indus people may speak to us again, and their words might rewrite everything we thought we knew about the dawn of civilization. But until then, we are left with the haunting image of these seals resting in museum cases, under glass, lit by cold white lights. They are the ghosts of a language we cannot hear, the last testimony of a people who may never tell their story. And maybe, just maybe, that is the point. Perhaps some knowledge is meant to remain hidden, some mysteries meant to stay unsolved, not to frustrate us but to remind us that the past is bigger than we are. The Indus seals are an unsolved riddle, a mirror held up to humanity, asking whether we are ready, or worthy, to know what they have been saying for 4 millennia. The camera pulls back, leaving the ruins in silence once more. The wind blows, carrying with it the eternal question, what secrets still lie buried beneath the dust of time?